What's up, Trek Nation, and welcome back to After the Snap. I'm your host, Tasha Pierce, and today, like for the past 3 weeks in a row, we will be discussing this week's episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. Have everyone remembered the tips that I gave you with episode 1 of this season? Turn your brain off, because today I turned my brain on. I did. I watched this episode with my brain on, and it is specifically because of my guys over at Discussing Trek. Now see, I do my videos day after, and then they sit down and they have a deep, in-depth discussion about it later on in the week. And so I listen to their discussion after I've done my episode. Yesterday, I'm laying there and I'm listening to the fellas discuss last week's episode, and one of the hosts, Carrie, made a statement. And Carrie is not like your diehard Trekkie. He is like, he's just following along. He's kind of new to the game. He enjoys watching the Trek, but he's not as invested as, say, a lot of us old heads are. So anywho, Carrie says, hey, you guys know there's a lot of sexual innuendos in these episodes. And the guys the rest of the hosts, there's 4 of them, they're all like, no, I hadn't noticed that. And I'm laying there like, no, I didn't notice that either. But I'm going to pay attention this week. And what a week to pay attention. What a week to pay attention. I could have written this thing with my brain turned off, and I would not have missed the sexual innuendo. As a matter of fact, the sexual innuendo wasn't even innuendo. So if you want to know what the hell I'm talking about, and we want to get deep into this conversation about Star Trek Lower Decks, Mugato, Gumato, just keep watching. Okay, so this week is Season 2, Episode 4 of Star Trek Lower Decks. We get an Easter egg right off the top because the title of this episode is Mugato Gumato. Now, I could scarcely remember what the Mugato was. I had to look that up. And when looking it up, I realized where they were going with the Gumato part of this whole thing. The Gumato, or the Mugato, see, there I'm doing it myself, is from one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek, which is A Private Little War. I talked about this episode in one of my, I think it was the video that I made about Star Trek making social commentary even back in the day. I'll leave a card right here for that video. Okay, so the Mugato Gumato. The Mugato was the big Yeti type creature that Kirk got into a rumble with in that episode. We learned that creature has venom in its horns, and the venom can only be treated by this certain root on this planet where Kirk had a friend named Tyree, which coincidentally just happens to be my nephew's middle name. I wonder why. But anywho, so that was the Mugato. The Gumato comes into play because I want to say that the creature was supposed to be a Gumato, but DeForest Kelley, who played Bones in the original series, couldn't say that. So they just flipped, turning it, calling it something different all through this episode. Mugato, Gumato, to the point where they put something, and I don't remember what, in the credits. And if I got that credit scene, I will show it to you right here. So, anywho, Easter egg right off the top. And we find that all throughout this episode, that creature was called something different every single time they said it. It was like they never said the same pronunciation of this creature the same 2 times in a row. It was always something different. So, haha, laugh, laugh. I got a kick out of it after I realized what the Mugato, what it was, okay? But anywho, in this episode, Boimler and Rutherford think Mariner is a Starfleet Black Ops. They had a conversation with the bartender, and the bartender told them, hey, you see how she's got all these special fighting skills, and where do you think she learned all of that? And they started paying attention, like, yeah, she has been on an awful lot of assignments. She's been assigned to a lot of different ships, and then she does fight pretty well. And they began to believe that Mariner was in probably Section 31 or something, some Black Ops Starfleet group. Okay. Also, and once again, my favorite arc of the episode was Tendi. Tendi was assigned to the task of completing medical scans on some of the most elusive crew members. And just like in every iteration of Trek, somebody doesn't want to get their yearly checkup. She's been assigned with catching up with the people who have gotten away with it for long enough until we get to the last name on the list who is patient, and there was some numbers, whatever the numbers is, and I forgot what the numbers are, and I didn't write them down because even though I had my brain turned on, I was looking for something specific. I wasn't looking for numbers. I was looking for something very specific, and by this point in the episode, I had found the specific thing that I was looking for. But anywho, in this episode, Starfleet gets in touch with the Cerritos, lets them know, hey, there have been Mugato or Gumato or whatever this thing is, that creature, the Star Trek Yeti. Okay, that's what I'm going to call it, the Star Trek Yeti. The Star Trek Yeti has been spotted on a planet that it is not native to. There should be no Star Trek Yetis there. So they sent the Cerritos to check it out, to see what the heck was going on. And sure enough, we get to this planet, and yeah, there is definitely evidence of a Star Trek Yeti being there, because Shax, who was leading this away mission, continuously found Yeti shit and tasted it every single time. Now, there's a lot of that type of crass humor. And let me tell you, because, again, I'm handing it to my boys over at Discussing Trek, I am trying to appreciate this show for what it is. Now, I'm still saying, though, just because this show is an animated comedy doesn't mean that all of the comedy needs to be sophomoric. You get what I'm saying? And a lot of it in this episode was very sophomoric humor, very locker room-esque humor. And while there's a little part of me that finds all that stuff really funny, there's another bigger part of me that says, can't we tell jokes that land for people who are not into that kind of humor? I can find it all funny. This is the person who's one of my favorite movies is Step Brothers, which is the most sophomoric movie in the world. So I can appreciate dumb shit. It's just, I don't know. But because of Discussing Trek, and in fact, because of Carrie. So Carrie, shout out to you, because I'm trying to change my life so that I can appreciate this series in the same way that you do. So anywho, so I wasn't being judgmental about the humor until, well, you know what? I'm not going to jump to the until part. I'm going to tell you what happened on this planet. Of course, we still have Boimler and Rutherford. They're still trying to find evidence, clues that Mariner is Black Ops. And Shax, he gets either bitten or gored by one of these Star Trek Yetis, and in order to extract the venom, Mariner pulls out a knife, cuts him open or whatever, and then tries to suck out the poison. So they walk up. Boimler and Rutherford walk up. She's attacking Shax with a knife and sucking his blood. And that's what they see. So they like, oh shoot, she going full Black Ops crazy on us, and they dipped. Okay. So we learned that the Ferengi are on this planet and they are poaching the Mugatos. And these Ferengi are not like Quark and Rom and Nog. These are like the Ferengi that we met in TNG. They're like the only time we ever saw a Ferengi in TNG. They were unrecognizable from the ones that we see throughout the rest of Star Trek history. Until now. Now we got these crazy ass, loony ass, wild ass Ferengi with these whips, and we got those Ferengi. But they are still Ferengi. So the way that they are defeated is a very Ferengi way, but we'll get to that in a moment. We watched Boimler and Rutherford make a run for it because they saw Mariner, what they thought was an attack on Shaxs, when she was really trying to save his life. So they run for it and they hide under like a rotted out tree. And wouldn't you know it, a couple of these Star Trek Yetis that had been released by the Starfleet contingent that was on the planet, they stampeded off, and we got Yetis, we got Mariner and Shaxs, we got Boimler and Rutherford. It's a lot of running going on right now. It's a lot of running. And like I said, Boimler and Rutherford ran, and they got into the hollowed out, rotted out tree, and they're hiding. Except now, here come two of these Star Trek Yetis, the Gumatos, whatever they are, and they decide it's time to make some sweet Mugato love, or it's time to get up in some Mugato guts. I don't know. It just got real weird. These Mugatos just got released from this being imprisoned by the Ferengi and being poached for their horns and all of this. And the first thing they thought about is it's time to go ahead on and get it on. Let's get it on. And we had to see that. So, yes, Carrie, there is no sexual subtext. They right out in our face. Right out in our face had these Star Trek Yetis getting it on while another one watched and stroked his horn. Now, while I can find the humor in this, I can laugh. I feel like Star Trek Lower Decks is just trying to figure out how far they can push the envelope. Because this was no longer subtext. I mean, I had seen nothing like this in the previous season and 3 episodes of Star Trek Lower Decks. Carrie brings it up because he notices it in the first 3 episodes of this season. And then in episode 4, it's like, okay, forget, we taking the gloves all the way off. And we about to show y'all some sex. Whether you're ready for it or not, it's going to be some sex in this episode. Now, let me be real clear when I say this. I was not ready. I was not ready. I was ready for some Easter egg type subtext. Gotta be really thinking dirty to catch it. I was looking for innuendo. I was not looking for a mating ritual. I just wasn't. Yeah, I don't know what to think about this. Was it necessary? Could they have told a joke that wasn't so juvenile? Or just, I don't know how am I supposed to feel about finding this in the middle of my Star Trek? Now, there are some who will say, Tasha, you wasn't so judgmental when it was a Klingon woman having sex with Ash Tyler. You wasn't saying nothing then. Who wouldn't want to see Ash Tyler? Okay, I'm kidding. Y'all like those jokes on Star Trek Lower Decks, but you don't like to hear me tell them. I wasn't doing a podcast then. I would have had some shit to say about that. And just like I got some stuff to say about this, I think maybe they're pushing the envelope a little too far. And I've been called a prude in my life, and I can take that. You know, I can take being called a prude. But there's just, that was a bit much. That was a bit much. And I'm not comfortable with that in my cartoons. I'm just not. I'm just not. So call me a prude. I really am one. I really am. Despite how funny and charming I might be, I am a prude. so there, that was something. And thank you for making me turn my brain off, because that could have been spotted brain off. Anywho, we have Tendi going around. She's picking off all these people that need their scans, and then we find out that the last person on the list is a code for a Starfleet officer. And after some detective work on Tendi's behalf, she finds out that the officer was the doctor herself, Dr. Tiana. She is the person who needs to have a checkup that refuses to get one, and she turned into a full cat again for the second week in a row. We got Tendi chasing Dr. Tiana around the ship, trying to do a scan on her, and the doctor, who is probably the worst patient ever, and they say that doctors make terrible patients, well, she is proof of that. She was doing all the cat stuff, hiding and running and scratching and everything. And at the end, it took Tendi breaking her arm and turning the doctor back into a doctor so that she could come and tend to Tendi. That was funny. So she went to tend to Tendi, and that's when Tendi snuck and got the scan. I thought this arc was funny. I used to think it was Tendi and Rutherford that I love so much, but I think maybe now it's just Tendi. That is who I love about this show. So you let me know how you felt about this arc in the Gumato, whatever episode. But going back after the sex act in the forest, Mariner catches up with Rutherford and Boimler, and she's like, what is the business? Why are y'all running from me? What are you guys thinking? And they're like, we know what you are. You're Black Ops. She's all, no, I made that up myself. So she had been spreading rumors about herself that she was Black Ops, and that rumor worked its way around to them. So in the end of the day, a game called Diplomat is what beat the Ferengi, because Rutherford and Boimler showed the Ferengi that it was more profitable to keep the Mugato Star Trek Yetis alive than it was to poach them for their horns and fur and all of this stuff. Profit. That's all it took. Turned their asses into quarking them just like that. They went from the TNG Ferengi to quark, just like that. So Diplomat was the deciding point. And that is like some kind of Starfleet game where I think you have to come to some compromise that there's, I don't know. I don't know what the game is. I was about to sit here and just make some shit up. I don't know. I didn't understand what the premise of the game was. I just know compromise, but I do know that they were able to talk the Ferengi into letting these Star Trek Yetis be free by using the game Diplomat. So, I don't know. At the end of the episode, we see Mariner embellish a story and give it to the same bartender, saying that they had single-handedly, Boimler and Rutherford, had single-handedly outsmarted the Ferengi and did something with the Mugatos. They beat them. Yay. All of that. It's a lot of Easter eggs, and you know what? I'm finding these videos are not doing so well. My Star Trek videos never do. You guys tell me, is it my approach? Tell me why my Star Trek videos suck when it comes to views. Is it just that few people looking for Star Trek stuff? Let me know. Let me know. Because I really do want it to get better. I'm going to talk to you like you're my friend. It's me and you. We are Star Trek buddies. I feel like this is big fun. If you guys ain't having fun, let me know in the comments. I can take it. Okay, so the big thing. I'm out of breath for some reason today too. You notice that? Like, the big thing about this episode was, of course, to me, was the sex act. Like, it wasn't necessary to make this episode funny. Would this episode have still had laughs without the Yeti sex? And the answer to me is yes. I would have still found this episode very funny in places without the Yeti sex. So I don't think that I'm being prudish when I say this show is trying to figure out how much they can get away with in the name of Star Trek. And I'm saying, I'm not sure I like that. I don't hate the show. I didn't even hate this episode. But I'm not sure that I like the fact that this cartoon, directors and writers and creator of this cartoon, is trying to see how much they can do without any outrage. There are more ways to be funny than to have that kind of graphic of a sex joke. I will have to go back and rewatch episodes to see over the course of the first 3 episodes what Carrie was talking about from discussing Trek. And this episode, it left nothing to the imagination. And suppose this was the episode that I wanted to watch with my 13-year-old niece. While I'm 100% positive that she's watching worse than that on her own, there is something extremely uncomfortable about a sex scene. At least it's uncomfortable for me to see a sex scene with my nieces and nephews around. Even though my nephews are 17 and 20 something, I still feel some kind of way. I get uncomfortable. I don't want to watch a movie with a graphic sex scene with my 27-year-old son. I don't want to. It's just not for me. So because of that, you're drawing a line into what I can do with my nieces and my nephews and my son. And there are things that I can't share this with them because I don't know how y'all gonna act, Star Trek Lower Decks. I don't know what y'all gonna do. You guys are doing things outside of what I typically expect in a Star Trek show. And it's making it where, yeah, they might watch it without me, but I can't watch it with them because I'm a prude. I've told y'all that. So anywho, because of that, I'm going to have to give this episode, out of my regular 5 for this season, everything is 5 for this season, I'm going to have to give this episode like a 2.5 because you have limited me for what I can do with this episode. I can't share it with too many people. They'll be like, Tasha shared these porno. and I'm sorry. I'm trying really hard to not be that person. But today I have to be that person. It was a bit much. The sex and then the one was jacking off the horn. That's a bit much in a cartoon. This Star Trek that I want to watch with little people. I can't do that, you know. So in the comments, I welcome you to put down there what you thought of this episode. This was a bit much for me. I'm sorry. Do me a favor as well. Check out Discussing Trek and listen to their conversations about these Star Trek Lower Decks episodes. I love those guys, and they often find things about those Star Trek Lower Decks episodes that I miss because I'm a single person, and it's 4 of them. So 4, 5, sometimes 5. Yeah, sometimes 5 of them. So give them a listen wherever podcasts are served. And yeah, so they get the 2.5 from me, and that's me being generous. saying that I halfway liked the episode until we got from some Yetis, some Star Trek Yetis. Outside of that, I don't have a whole bunch else. I've talked for a little while about this. Tell me how you feel. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button for me. You can come back here. If you turn your notifications on, you'll know exactly when I drop the next episode. Join me on Saturdays at 3 p.m. CST for my weekly wrap-up where I talk entertainment and then I talk about What If and DC's Titans. I do that on Saturdays at 3 p.m. CST. Also, I'm going to be reviewing the Shang-Chi movie on Facebook at After the Snap Movies and TV. Yeah, that's where I'm at on Facebook. So if you want to hear my review of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, then you can come join me there at 7 p.m. CST on Friday night. Friday night. And every Friday I will be reviewing some movie. Probably a big movie because I like to have company when I'm doing this. So anywho, I've spoken enough about all this stuff. I have enjoyed my conversation with you today. I will not make the mistake of keeping my brain on to watch another Star Trek Lower Decks episode ever again. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Do me one big favor. Live long and prosper. Peace.